earth is flat. It's not a sphere. The earth is flat beneath a big dome atmosphere. The earth is flat. It's not a ball. The earth is flat, and that is that, and that is all. The earth is flat. It does not move. The earth is flat, and that is so easy to prove. The earth is flat. Send out the call. The earth is flat, and that is that, flat as a mat under a cat. The earth is flat, and that is that, and that is all.
Hello, flat earthers, my new friends. I've come to talk about the end. We all once had a hard time seeing where all this conspiracy stuff was leading. But the flat earth awakening has made it all so clear why we're here to serve God, not science. They say the sun is far away, but we can see that's not the case. It all started when we realized they were only showing CGI. And the starlight is not trillions of miles away, like they say in the realm of science. But fools still say that it's a globe. They haven't seen what we've been shown. There wouldn't be any arguments if they just looked at the evidence and knew about Freemasons and the 33. They might see.
Hey folks, welcome to another video from A Plain Truth. Well, I want to go back to 1986 when the Challenger, NASA Challenger space station was launched into space, and that was a video 73 seconds after launching. It blew up and allegedly landed all over the Florida coast where the Bermuda Triangle is, where they dump all the rockets that they allegedly launch into space, but just basically use the Bermuda Triangle as their dumping ground. Many rockets have been found there, but this is from my website, A Plain Truth, which I'll include in the show notes, and the work I did on this a couple years ago. But I want to give a shout out to Clues Forum. Clues Forum did extensive research on this. I got a lot of my information from them about the Challenger astronauts, NOTS, still being alive. All right, so the power of programming. One study reported that 85% of Americans surveyed had heard the news within an hour of the accident. This is TV programming. One feed, ABC, NBC, CBS picked up from NASA about the alleged moon launches. One feed sent it out to the world, and the world drank the Kool-Aid. Now everyone has a screen. Everyone gets all of their information from the programming of a screen. They've got it down to a science. They've been programming us for a very, very long time. So let's get into this. On March 7th, divers from the USS Preserver identified what might be the crew compartment on the ocean floor. The finding all along with discovery of the remains of all 7 crew members was confirmed the next day, and March 9th, NASA announced the findings to the press. Remember the dates, March 7th and March 9th. All right. So we go on, and here's the shuttle allegedly blowing up, as you saw earlier. All bodies were recovered, all of them. Now remember, this is a metallic capsule, allegedly, or the space shuttle. It wasn't even a capsule. They found the space shuttle to rebuild most of it during the investigation. Now think about it. It goes way up to space, slams into the water at hundreds, if not thousands of miles an hour, and they get everything all back. Compare this to Flight 93 crashed, and you can't find anything. All right, numerology, it's all part of it. Remember 9/11. April 4th, 1983 equals 11. STS-51L equals 9. Numerology, they love their numerologies. They do them specific times, specific dates to harvest the black occult energy of the universe. It's all about frequency, energy, and vibration. September 29th, 9 plus 11, 1998 is when they launched the next alleged shuttle into space. Think about all the money they make. And then here, 48,000 feet they went into the air. Well, you divide it into miles, it's 9.09090909 miles, which is 666 upside down. It goes on. So all the remains of the seven astronauts were discovered in the crew decks on the ocean floor, except for Gregory Jarvis's remains were discovered in the lower mid-deck with fellow astronaut Ronald McNair and schoolteacher Krista McAuliffe. During salvage operations to raise the crew deck from the ocean floor, Jarvis's body escaped from the wreckage, floated to the surface, and disappeared back to sea. But then again, on the magical number 7, the last scheduled attempt to recover the wreckage, Jarvis's body was rediscovered and returned to the shore. You cannot make this stuff up, folks. It's all theater. It's all a Truman Show. We've all been lied to. And guess what? They're all, well, most of them we've discovered are all still alive and very gainfully employed. Well, let's take a look at Miss Judith Resnick and Sharon Krista McAuliffe, who was the teacher allegedly on board, both enjoying successful law university positions and careers, while astonishingly enough still using their own names. The names and surnames with which our international celebrities are the NASA martyrs of the Challenger. So here's Judith Resnick in the Apollo shuttle. Here's Judith Resnick as a Yale University. Krista McAuliffe is now a lawyer. Resnick, in 2010, she was named a recipient of Elizabeth Hurlock Beckman Prize, awarded to outstanding faculty in higher education in the fields of, get this, psychology and law. Professor Resnick also had a cameo role in Doug Liman film Fair Game. She's getting paid off. Resnick in Hebrew means ritual slaughter. Okay? Now how about the teacher, Sharon Krista McAuliffe? That's why so many were paying attention. This is from the Council of Chief State School Officers, a nonprofit organization of public education. Here's McAuliffe saying, I really don't want to say goodbye to any of you people. Here's her lawyer, her law card that she's a lawyer on lawyers.com, so she didn't have to say goodbye to anybody. And then her husband is Governor McAuliffe. Governor Terry McAuliffe is very much concerned about NASA. And here he is speaking about it. He meets with NASA administrators on building stronger partnerships between NASA and Virginia. Governor of Virginia, married to Kristen McAuliffe, the former teacher, now lawyer and psychology. You can't make this stuff up. He was also President Bill Clinton's 1996 re-election campaign and Hillary Clinton's 2008 presidential campaign as well. Married to Krista McAuliffe, governor of Virginia, next to Langley Air Force Base in Virginia. Went to Georgetown University, the Jesuit school, not the Jewish school, the Jesuit school. He was a captain in the U.S. Army. He was assistant attorney general in New Hampshire. Blah, blah, blah. What a perfect person to help aid and abet in the huge cover-up. And it goes on. This is Sean O'Keefe, former NASA administrator, appointed University at Syracuse. O'Keefe, former administrator to NASA, is the 17th person at Syracuse University to hold the title of university professor. He announced he was with Krista McAuliffe. I let that go a little too fast, sorry. A fellow named Michael Smith, another one on the Challenger, bears a striking resemblance to the NASA Challenger. During his 18 years in college, Smith advised 80 master's and PhD students to program them correctly. Smith earned a PhD in industrial psychology. There it is again, from University of Wisconsin-Madison. Here's a picture of Richard Dick Scobie. Richard Dick Scobie has a company called Cows in the Trees. Now get this. A fellow named Richard Scobie, who bears a striking resemblance to the Challenger's commander, Dick Scobie, is alive and well and CEO of a company called Cows in Trees. Here's the company's website intro featuring a rocket-powered car swirling around smoke in the sky, much like the Challenger shuttle is seen as exploding in midair. And notice the 6, folks. Notice the 6. It's all just theater for them. Incidentally and interesting, the Challenger commander, Dick Scobie, a retired Air Force, is today Deputy Director of Operations for NORAD. What a small world. And then we've got the 2 look-alike brothers, the twins that just happen to look exactly alike. One died, one stayed alive. Can you be one and then the other? Look at the similarities, folks. Ronald McNair. And then there's Dick Scobie here. Well, Dick Scobie has his own Facebook page, folks. He's not dead. He's got his own Facebook page. Anyway, back to the twins. Marl McNair, Ellison Onizuka, and his alleged twin brother, Claude. Claude will celebrate the heroic legends of their brothers. Yes, they're going to honor their brothers as twins. They've either been mind controlled, or they've been paid off, or they're in part of the entire conspiracy. That's how this stuff works, folks. So we've identified out of the 7, it's alive, it's alive. They're all alive and gainfully employed. And I highly recommend, I highly suggest that some of you on the East Coast go to the Yale universities, go to the law schools, go and get on record these people. That'd be great. I'll publish it. And then the Freemasons. Look at them all. Edgar Mitchell, Medra of the Tejon Lodge, Virgil Grissom, Master Mason from the Mitchell Lodge, Walter Scherer from the Mason at Western Lodge Star. I mean, this goes on and on. Neil Armstrong, Alan Shepard, all Freemasons. And then this guy, Fred Kleineck, head of NASA at the time of the Apollo space program, is now the Sovereign Grand Commander of the Council of 33 Degree, the ancient and accepted Scottish Freemasonry of the Southern Jurisdiction. This was the reward for pulling off the hoax. All the first astronauts were Freemasons. There is a photograph of the house in the Temple of Washington, Neil Armstrong supposedly on the moon's surface. So they tell the first few degrees, hey, we went to the moon, and then when you get up in the higher adepts, you get told that the earth is flat. We never went to the moon. It's all a great hoax. We own the lie. That's how they work. That's how they roll. And then they honor them. And here's the April 1st, 50th anniversary, the calculated murder. Many astronauts in the early stages were murdered. I think there was a number about like 10. And they were allegedly, I'm surmising here, murdered because they knew too much or would not go along with the hoax, including the guys in Apollo 1 and Gus Grissom. What happened on that day on Apollo 1, the beginning of the Apollo moon launches? Well, it didn't really go too good. It turns out that here's all the guys that were killed, and I'll put this in the show notes. You can read about it. But the issue in mysterious and untimely deaths, sorry about that. Let me get in here about Gus Grissom here I want to talk about. The issues of the mysterious and timely deaths also plagues the moonshots, where whistleblowers silenced the 67 death of Gus Grissom along with Ed White and Roger Coffey in the Apollo 1 fire is a possibility. More possible debunkers, we never meant the moon crowd, was published and discussed. Well, who else would make such a disgusting claim? Grissom's wife and son do. They both believe that the Apollo 1 fire was no accident and that the truth is being covered up. They have evidence that such a notion might be true, and Grissom's son Scott is calling for an official investigation as of 2002. Grissom was critical of NASA, so he hung a lemon on a NASA simulator before he died. They did not like that. People associated with Apollo 1 simulation of the day of the fire remarked on the strange atmosphere that prevailed. Grissom told his wife that if somebody died in an accident, quote, it would likely be him, and not because he was accident prone. Straight-talking Grissom apparently made NASA brass uneasy with his observations during the Apollo 1 simulation just before he was killed. The communications with command module completely broke down, and Grissom said in exasperation, quote, how are you going to get to the moon if we can't even talk between two buildings? They took him out. They could not allow these. Now, remember, these guys are pilots. They're the best and the brightest, the top guns, and then they go on to be the astronauts. They're the first ones selected. They're highly qualified. Now, look at this. Oops. NASA has lost all 200,000 videotapes from the Apollo moon launches. Oh my God, they put them next to other magnetic tapes and they accidentally erased them all. That's their official story. And then we got this guy, this piece of work, Thomas Keith Glennon, the first administrator to NASA. So Thomas Keith Glennon went to Mitchell University, University of Wisconsin, there it is again, Madison, Wisconsin, served as the first administrator of NASA. And as we go on, his experience. Look at this guy's qualifications for being in NASA. Following graduation, he became associated with newly developed sound motion picture industry. Yeah, he worked for Paramount Studios and Samuel Golden Studios, who made Star Trek, folks. These are the makers of Star Trek. That's been his experience. And then he joined Columbia University, Rockefeller School, War Research in 1942 and World War II, and served as director and administrator of the U.S. Navy's underwater sound laboratories at New London, Connecticut. Amazing Why would a former manager of a Hollywood film companies and previous superintendent for a joint which made loudspeakers for the movie industry be chosen by the U.S. government to head the newly formed NASA organization? Was there really no more better qualified candidate? Columbia University was founded by J.D. Rockefeller, check. Paramount Studios, movie producer, check. U.S. Underwater Laboratories to film the underground fake Apollo scenes, check. It all is right here, folks, for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. All right, let's close us out with Werner von Braun, the Nazi V1, V2 wunderkind that rained hellfire on England and France and everyone with a V1, V2 buzz bomb, killing millions. Germany against the war, Nazis. Well, what did they do? They got help with the Vatican, with the rat lines, down to Argentina. Then Disney and Werner von Braun, who came in to run the Saturn program to the moon, came in and said, oh, well, we're going to help you make a movie about it. Well, Werner von Braun didn't like that very much, but he had to go along with it. He had no choice. They brought along 3,000 other German scientists. Some went up to MK Ultras up in Canada. Some went into Bayer Pharmaceuticals that Monsanto just absorbed. Some went to the Apollo programs. But Werner von Braun on his tombstone said, verse 1.3, Psalms 19:1, the firmament showeth his handiwork. Why would Werner von Braun talk about the firmament? Because he was a flat earther and knew it and had to keep his mouth shut or else. And he knew it. Just like all the other German Nazis that were in partnership with the Rockefellers and everybody. So, it's time to wake up, folks. We've been told a great lie. And what I want to end this with is what's the difference between whether we're flat earth or whether we're a round spinning ball spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, going at 1,000 miles a second around the sun, 93 million miles away, which means we have to travel 533 million miles. Here's my flat earth book, please. Download it. It's free. It's a PDF. I'll put it in the show notes. Look up all what I'm saying. Don't believe a word. Look it up for yourself. Use your own discernment and judgment. So they're saying we're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour on this ball, and the water's being held in at the center by a core sun that heats up so much, but we've only drilled down 8 miles, so how would we know there's a core sun? Yet it magically holds in the water of a spinning earth at 1,000 miles an hour. All the oceans are held in by an undefined, unknown gravity. Gravis means weight. Newton never even mentioned gravity in his workings at all in his Principia. And then allegedly we can walk in space up at the Kármán line at 62 miles, yet the moon, 238,000 miles away and 1/6 the gravity of pull and 1/4 the size of Earth, allegedly is able to pull our oceans up and down twice a day. So we're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. Gravity's holding in the mighty oceans, 1,000 miles an hour. Try and think about that. And then the moon has the power from 238,000 miles away to move our oceans up and down twice a day. Yet astronauts can walk up in space starting at microgravity at 62 miles up. Does this make sense to anyone? To anyone, folks? So please, this is in my Flat Earth book, along with 5,000 years of theocosmogony, with all the ancients talking about a geocentric flat Earth, the Babylonians, the Egyptians, the Sumerians, the Chaldeans, the Vikings, the Near East, the Far East, the Toltecs, the Mayans, the Cherokees, all of them were flat Earth, and we were never taught a word of this in school. Why? Because they don't want you to know. It's not what you think you know. It's what they don't teach you you need to know. All right, Plain Truth out. Please share. Love one another, and peace.